It's about I gotta say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Whoa, he has trouble with the snap, and the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State. Jalen wants Jackson, and he scores on the last play of the game.
Ground ball, right side. Cabrera will cut it off. Galarraga covers. He's out. No, he's safe.
Phoenix has the foul, and a pinnacle foul throws it down.
DeBrincat gets it back to Goss's Baron across now King.
They score! Raymond!
Big five. Johnson to throw, and it's caught by St. Brown for a first down.
This is BS Sports.
And away we go. Welcome one, welcome all. It has been what I thought was going to be a relatively slow news week. I don't know. I can't speak. That's the only thing I got to do on this show is talk, and I can't even do that. It's been a relatively slow news week, is what I thought. Going into Monday evening, I thought, well, I don't know. It's just kind of, there's not a whole lot to talk about. Tigers are pretty good. Right now they're up 1-0 to the Sox. Chance to win the 3-game set. That's exciting. The NBA playoffs are fun. Knicks up 3-1. Jayson Tatum out. And I thought, there's not really going to be a whole lot to talk about. And then I realized, oh, yeah, that's right. The NBA lottery is on Monday. Well, maybe there'll be something interesting. Who's going to win the Cooper Flag sweepstakes? And I was not watching the lottery. I was actually out of my apartment. I had to work a little bit late that day, or on Monday. And, let's just kind of get into it. Because I guess I'm a little infamous, I suppose, about talking about the NBA lottery, because still the most viewed video on this channel is myself reacting to the 2023 draft lottery, in which the Detroit Pistons got absolutely screwed by the draft lottery and did not win the Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes, which, transpired in what was one of the worst seasons in Pistons history, or not one of the worst season in Pistons history. Anyway, we're not gonna relitigate that draft lottery. The following year, they got screwed again. And it was kind of just funny at that point, because it just seemed like absolutely nothing could go right for the Detroit Pistons. Now, the year that the Pistons had, they made the playoffs, ended the playoff drought. They took the Knicks to 6 games. Cade Cunningham had an all-star season. You really thought you had something. Or you think you have something going, I should say. Not thought you had something. You think you have something. And so I wasn't really focusing on the draft lottery. This is the first time in a long time I wasn't really that interested in how the draft lottery was going to turn out. And then I hear, as I am driving home, the results of the draft lottery. So let's start with the top 5. I'm not going to get into every individual movement of every individual team, because largely it's, inconsequential. First, at the number 6 spot, I know I said top 5. I want to start with 6, actually. The number 6 spot, the Washington Wizards, who fall 4 spots. They had the, I believe, the second worst record in the league. I could be wrong on that, but I believe they had one of the worst record in the Eastern Conference. We'll just say that. So they're picking 6th overall. That's their reward for finishing worst team in the Eastern Conference. Yeah, they get the 6th pick. Okay. Then you have the Utah Jazz. Now, they, I believe, actually did have the worst record. They're going to be picking 5th overall. So, once again, you have the worst team in the league, ostensibly the best odds to have a successful shot in the lottery. They get screwed. They go to their worst possible spot, which is 5th. So that stinks for Utah, a team that's in the midst of a rebuild themselves. And then you get number 4, and it's Charlotte. And of course it's Charlotte because from time immemorial, the Charlotte Hornets, when they were the Charlotte Bobcats, they have just perpetually gotten screwed in the lottery. You can go look at, I believe they had a chance for Anthony Davis. They got screwed in that. There's plenty of other times where they get screwed in the lottery, and it was a high talent or a high caliber generational type player. They get screwed. Really, nobody's surprised at this point. If you're a Charlotte Hornets fan, you basically are just accepting it. Then at number 3 overall, you get the 76ers. And you think, okay, well, they move up 2 spots. You know, they just had a nightmare of a season. Joel Embiid did not play. I think he was hurt the whole year. I could be wrong on that. The team is just sort of in a deep, endless spiral. So, despite the fact that they had 2 number 1 overall picks, and only one of them in Joel Embiid has done anything of note, and their other top draft pick was, I don't know if he was number 1 overall, because I think one of their number 1 overalls is not even in the league anymore. But then whatever. They had immense lottery luck, and of course they get even more lottery luck moving into the 3rd spot. And then this is where things really get interesting. At number 2, you get the San Antonio Spurs, a team that just won the lottery 2 years ago and managed to get themselves Victor Wembanyama, and now they're going to get themselves another probably very good player. They move up 6 spots. Okay, this was a team that was kind of in the bubble of the play-in that could have made the play-in if you don't have the injuries to Wembanyama, which just sort of set the season awry. But now you're going to have a team with Wembanyama. They already traded for De'Aaron Fox, and whoever they end up taking at number 2 overall. And I don't know if this is a great draft class, but it's certainly going to be better than last year's. We'll just lay that. And they got the rookie of the year, Stephen Castle, on that team as well. Stephon Castle. I don't know how to pronounce it. Whatever. And then the icing on the crap cake. The Dallas Mavericks jump up, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8, not 9, but 10 spots to get Cooper Fleck. Now, it'll be one thing if the Mavericks were just a middle-of-the-road team, couldn't quite get it going. If they were, let's say, last year's Atlanta Hawks, where you're like, wow, that's kind of crazy. A team that made the play-in doesn't really is sort of directionless. Maybe this number 1 overall pick can really, put them in the right direction. Here's the problem. The Dallas Mavericks were this season a part of one of the worst trades in the history of all of sports, trading away Luka Doncic for the player formerly known as Anthony Davis and Max Christie and a first-round pick that is currently a freshman in high school. All of that combined with, Dallas in general is doing a lot of stupid things, like having a general manager that seems contemptible towards the fans, having ownership who seems to absolutely not care about the state of the franchise. And so what do you do to up a value of one of your bigger franchises in a pretty big market in Dallas, pretty big sports town in Dallas? Well, let's give them the number 1 overall pick. Like, it's to the point where, like, I'm just like, I'm just like, this is just WWE. This is not, if you truly believe that this is random, if you truly believe that this is, the result of just what ends up happening, I'm sorry, then I got a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. Like you've got to be hopelessly naive if you actually believe that this is the honest and totally non corrupt creation of the NBA to have a kind of like, washing our hands. Look, we didn't give them the number. It was random. It was in a dark room with only media members can watch as we pull the results out. Come on. If you still don't believe that the NBA draft lottery is not just a TV show, is not just here for ratings, is not just here so that the NBA can, manipulate who is picking where so as to help make the most market sense, then I just don't know I don't know how you function on a day-to-day basis. Like, I feel like you could very easily be swindled by, your bosses, your friends, your family. Like, I genuinely am concerned about, like, look at what's happening in front of you. A team who just had one of the biggest nightmare seasons where they trade away their superstar, face of the franchise, elite, future potential MVP player for nothing. And what is their reward? The number one overall pick, where they can draft potentially a future superstar, face of the league, MVP candidate in Cooper Flagg, who everybody knew going into this year is a number one overall pick. Everybody knew going into this year is a really, really good prospect. And everybody knew that whoever was going to end up with Cooper Flagg was going to get a massive boost, not only in just pure, player or just media interest, but fan interest. Like, what do you even do as a Mavs fan at this point? Your GM just sold a beloved player, and now what are you going to do? Because now you're going to probably get Cooper, unless his GM is just that stupid and he doesn't draft Cooper Flagg, you're going to get Cooper Flagg with Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, and Klay Thompson. And I don't know if this is going to work out long term, but on top of all of this, I have a fundamental and in principle disagreement with the idea that a team that was in the play-in, in the postseason, in theory, the Dallas Mavericks could have won the NBA championship and gotten the first overall, and gotten the first overall pick. And people genuinely seem to have no problem with this. How could it would be as if I know this would never happen because the NFL would never do this. It would be as if the 7-seeded Green Bay Packers last year went in and beat the Cowboys, and then at the end of the season got the number one overall pick. Like a team, I know that the Mavericks did not have a great season. I understand, but you should not be rewarded a number one overall pick for making the play-in. Like, basically, they made the play-in and they get the number one overall pick. That doesn't make any sense. In what world does that make sense? Once again, there is nothing in principle with a number 10 seed like Dallas was, or a number 11 seed. I don't remember what seed they were. There's nothing in principle stopping that team from going on a crazy playoff run and potentially winning the championship. And as the lottery currently stands, also getting the number one overall pick. That is ridiculous. Like, that is absurd. Okay, that should not and cannot happen. Like, it's just not fair. All right? And you know what actually is fair? The worst team gets the first pick. That is fair. That's objective. There's no chance for any sort of shenanigans. There's no chance of teams feeling like and franchises feeling like they're getting screwed. Like, poor Charlotte. Every single year, there's some clear consensus number one overall pick. Charlotte drops in the draft. Look it up. Find me the draft where there's, the Anthony Davis or, the Dwight Howards or LeBron James, and find me the year where Charlotte does not just plummet or rise, I guess. Not plummet exactly. But it doesn't happen. And largely it didn't happen with the Pistons. They got lucky. They got one where, okay, fine. Team has been really bad for a while. I don't know. We don't really know what we're getting with Cade Cunningham. Sure, we'll let the Pistons have him. That's fine. Like, broken clock and all that. Like, it is just stupid. It's unfair. It doesn't stop tanking, clearly. like you look at some of these teams. Do you really think it stopped tanking? I mean, look at the teams that the Utah Jazz are putting out there. They're putting out basically G League teams. Or look at the teams that Washington was putting out there. Or any of these teams. It doesn't stop tanking. All it does is tell a team that is terrible that they will remain terrible. Like, that you will stay where you are because, it doesn't make sense for Charlotte to be rewarded with Cooper Flag to help boost their kind of weird perpetual stuckness in their rebuild where they already have some young players in Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball, but they can't get that boost to really push them up out of that play-in / mediocrity bubble that they find themselves in. So it's just ridiculous. Like, it's just ridiculous. We should... I've been saying it for years, and what's funny now is that all the people who did not like what I had to say last year, what are you going to say now? Because my Pistons were involved. Okay, I'm not a Dallas hater. I don't hate the Dallas Mavericks. I hate the Spurs, but like I have literally no say in this. The Pistons don't even have a first-round pick this year. So I gain nothing in pointing out that this lottery is completely rigged and stupid. So look, if you want to keep defending it as an NBA fan and say that it's so good and that it, you can't complain about it because it's totally fair and legitimate, then I don't know. I guess I got some beachfront property for you in Nebraska. Really, at that point, I could just convince you of anything. All right. A lot of chats here from you Detroit fans. Let me run through these real quick. Las Vegas Mavericks loading. I don't think they're going to relocate, but it is kind of, it's kind of ridiculous how that worked out. Tigers spanking the Red Sox after going MIA against the Rangers. Yeah, now they're in a tie game here, 1-1. So it looks like this could be a bit of a slower game, although the Tigers came alive in the third inning. So we're getting into the bottom of the third here. Obviously, you corrected this with the right punctuation there. Gleyber Torres greater than Alex Bregman. I don't know if I go that far, but Gleyber Torres has been great for us, for sure. Them getting fifth in 2024 didn't piss me off like 2023. Because 2023, yeah, I agree. I was in the same boat. I was also just kind of like dead as a Pistons fan at that point. It wasn't a very good draft class, so I guess it's fine to drop out of it. I did just find it kind of funny that the Pistons literally had the worst record they have ever had as a franchise, and the NBA was like fifth pick. like we had a massive losing streak. You want to talk about a team that needs a boost? It was the Pistons at that point. Now, granted, I honestly think we would have taken Ron Holland first overall, and it wouldn't have. Or I guess maybe we could have taken Steven Castle. But I don't know what Trajan Langdon's board was looking like if Ron Holland was the best player available to him at that point. But who knows? Let's see. Pop must have a lot of blackmail in the NBA for the Spurs getting all this luck. I don't think it's blackmail. I think he's just friends with them. Like I think it's just a matter of the owners love Greg Popovich. He's been a coach for a very long time. He's been a face of the league for a very long time. I think it's just like. The media likes him. Like all of these leagues, it's a money-making business. What makes the most money? Like, would it make the most money if Cooper Flag was playing for the Charlotte Hornets? Absolutely not. Would it make the most money if he was playing on the Dallas Mavericks with Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving? Yes, it would make far more money. And similarly, because there's some, element of, they can wash their hands of this. Like, yeah, you give the Spurs number 2 overall. Why not? Please, why not? And you give Philadelphia a team that kind of needs a boost there. Like the bottom 3 teams in this draft are all 3 teams that have at least semi-recently been in the playoffs or the play-in within past 3, 4, 5 years. The Spurs were in the play-in just a couple of seasons ago. It's a few seasons back, and the Mavericks were just in the finals. So it's, Utah and Charlotte, for as, great as those fan bases are, I think both of those teams have some, I can't speak to Charlotte, but I know Utah is big fan base for the Utah Jazz. It doesn't move the needle. Not in the same way that San Antonio, Dallas, or Philly does. Short-term Dallas could have some success, but will it actually work since Clay and AD are old and injury-prone and Kyrie's getting old also? Yeah, that's the question. I think Dallas is just kind of an organizational chaos. So I don't know that it works out with the core they currently have. but it certainly is a boost. I mean, like, I think Dallas is going to be much improved next year, especially if they can be healthy. If you have Anthony Davis paired with Cooper Flag, that's a really good center room. Or I guess technically Flag is a power forward, not a center. I guess so isn't Davis a power forward too? It's a couple of, it's the two towers essentially. It's Lord of the Rings. Yeah, you got two very large and imposing basketball players that are very talented, and you pair that with two of the best shooters of all time, in Irving and Klay Thompson. So Lowry's been around since '85. He's clearly not stopping Tangy. Yes, '85 was the Knicks. Patrick Ewing. Yeah, right. The frozen envelope. That whole thing. Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. Like it really is. Like I'll just read this before I get into that. Pop is why the Spurs are a thing because of all the NBA markets. San Antonio and Memphis are the most obscure ones, especially with no Seattle or Pittsburgh teams. Yeah, like San Antonio is not a big market by itself, right? There's only one pro sports team in San Antonio. That's the Spurs. But because it's Popovich, because it's Tim Duncan, David Robinson, that whole, they're one of the most successful NBA franchises. So, of course, they're going to get rewarded. And it's not just that they're successful because the Pistons are, maybe not, they're not as successful, but they're similarly successful. But the Pistons are the ones that are always pushing the envelope. So they get looked at in a different light, despite the fact that Detroit is a far bigger market than San Antonio. And certainly from a sports fan base standpoint. I mean, Detroit is one of the bigger sports markets in the league in terms of just fandom. Like, there's a lot of fans of Detroit sports just across the country, people who are from Michigan. So, yeah. But yeah, on the lottery, like, it's just, let's assume, let me be as charitable as possible. Let's assume the lottery is completely legitimate and they're not rigging it. They're not trying to do any sorts of shenanigans. They genuinely just run it. And this is just, it's one of the possibilities. Let's assume that's all true. What does it say about a sports league that instead of just doing the obvious thing, which is give the first overall pick to the worst team, the second overall pick to the second worst, and so on, what does it say about a sports league that says, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this weird thing that has only existed for a few decades to this point. At this point, 40 years. Out of a, almost 100-year, league. So a fairly small portion of the existence of the league. You're going to do this weird thing. And on top of that, invite this kind of view of it that it is corrupt or that there is a bias involved. Like, it's the same thing with the NHL, but at least with the NHL, it's, you have the obvious difference being that, when you draft a player number 1 overall, you're not necessarily guaranteeing that player is right then and there on your team. Similar to baseball, like the player, he might end up on your team, but, you're not guaranteed. There's not the immediate boost that a number 1 overall pick can have for a franchise. I mean, we saw it with, Victor this year when Victor Wembanyama, just a year after getting drafted, the Spurs were a much improved team. And Victor is already an all-star caliber player. So you already give that franchise a boost. Yeah, it's not to say that all it takes to get successful in the league is to get a bunch of number 1 overall picks. We saw Philly. They didn't get much success as far as championships go. But it is to say that, again, you're inviting this kind of corruption. It'd be like, how do I make an analogy that would be applicable, but not like, okay, this may be a bit of a stretch, but let me have it for a second. It'd be like if I'm a faithfully married man and I'm going to go out to a restaurant and let's say I'm going to Hooters as a married man. Now, of course, I'm probably, assuming I'm a good guy, I'm not going to, flirt with the waitresses. I'm not going to engage with any of these women. But why would I put myself in that situation? Why would I invite even the thought from my beloved bride that I might be cheating on her with some 19-year-old who works for a restaurant. In the same way, why would the NBA even invite the very thought that idiots like me are going to come on and say that the league is corrupt and rigged and trying to just boost Dallas's value when it's at its absolute lowest? It's just, I don't understand it. It's just stupid. It's just dumb. And everybody kind of knows it's dumb. Like, everybody knows it's dumb unless they're the team that gets rewarded for it. I guarantee you there's going to be some Dallas fans saying, oh, stop complaining. We deserved it. We traded Luka, blah, blah, blah. Sure. You still made the plan. Like, I didn't tell you to trade Luka. That's your own stupid GM. Your own stupid GM is getting rewarded for making an absolutely unforgivable decision. The NHL and just recently the MLB does lotteries, but both don't get as much attention as the NBA lottery is because more than the NHL expect top 1 to 3 guys. You won't see them right away, especially with baseball too. Let's see, NBA only had one lottery. It's questionable as Cleveland somehow got it despite making the ALCS. The NHL one doesn't matter as long as you have good scouts. Correct. That's just true. And the same applies with the MLB. I mean, like, first overall picks. I mean, Paul Skeens, he made the MLB pretty much right out of the gate. But, like, the thing is, in baseball, you get like 100 picks. Like, you get so many draft picks. I've said on this show before, the MLB draft, wherever you're picked, it is the least it doesn't matter. Because the aggregate of the amount of guys you pick, guys are inevitably going to get through the cracks. Like, guys are just going to, you're going to find the Kerry Carpenters or the Tarek Skubals, just to use the Tigers example. There's plenty of other examples that you could find of guys who get taken way late. Jordan Alvarez was not a high pick, and he ends up, being a superstar caliber baseball player for the Houston Astros. And he got traded. like that. It's just right. Like this is a good point. And Casey Mize is turning out to be pretty decent, albeit right now he's dealing with some injury. He should be out he should not be out for very long. But Tarek Skubal just won the Cy Young, and nobody knew who he was when he was drafted. So yeah, 255th overall. Exactly. Like every year you get 100 billion pick. Matt Manning was a top pick for the Tigers. He's not even on the team. Like, it's just like it is unique to the NBA. Because as much as I get annoyed when the Red Wings get screwed in the draft lottery, which they did this past draft lottery, I mean, for one, I'm already kind of upset with the way the Red Wings are being run because I think Steve Yzerman is an absolute hack. But either way, forget what I think about Steve Yzerman. I'm not going to lose sleep about not getting a first overall pick in the NHL outside of maybe like the Bedard draft or the McDavid draft or something like that, where it's like there's a guy that just seems to clearly be running away with it. But even then, NHL is a lot more about development, is a lot more about finding those diamonds in the rough, those scrappy guys that, fit a kind of mold that you're actually trying to build there. So, but yeah, so the draft lottery, I will continue to rail against it. I know it's like old man yelling at cloud because the league is never going to change. It's never going to, it's like expansion or like, not expansion, season. It's like adding games at the end of the season or adding playoff season. They're never going to go backwards. I've never seen a league where, they say, oh, you know what? It's too many playoff teams. Or, you know what? It's too many games. I've never seen them go backwards. They only go forwards. They only add more playoff teams. They only add more games. It's just the way it is. 90s and 2000s had a decent amount of guys that were diamonds in the rough. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, the 90s and 2000s wasn't like the Red Wings were picking in the lottery, but they were still drafting guys like Lindstrom and Zetterberg and Tatsuk, all guys that were not taken in the first round. Don't tell that to Steve Yzerman apologists, though, because apparently the only good players are at the first overall draft selection, which is why all these other teams' rebuilds are working and ours isn't. I realize I'm going to run out of water here soon, so hopefully we can get through the show. 2-1 Tigers. I did see that. I got the game on here, so we got that. Got the lead back. Back-to-back. No, not back-to-back innings where we score because we didn't score in the second. But hey, we scored in the third again. So. All right. Let's forget the draft lottery for a second here. Let's jump into the NBA playoffs because we have a lot to talk about. So the first series I want to talk about right now is live. You have the Pacers and the Cavs. And right now the Pacers are up 3-1. They got a chance to ice this series. Donovan Mitchell, I believe he was not playing tonight. I don't really know. The team Cleveland was putting out there, frankly, was pretty injured. However, I do find it interesting that once again, a Cleveland team that has a coach win Coach of the Year, I believe a couple of years ago they had JB Bickerstaff win Coach of the Year, and they just collapsed in the playoff. I think that Cleveland's a good team, but maybe it's a little bit deeper than just the coach. Maybe it's just that the roster obviously doesn't seem to have the depth granted, again, you get a lot of injuries. It's hard to really put the blame on the team. But it is kind of funny because all the, when Atkinson won the Coach of the Year, it was like, oh, well, see how much better he did with the Cavs team than Bickerstaff. And it's like, well, maybe in the regular season, but, postseason, it seems like a lot more of the same. But this Pacer team, that I was looking for them to take a step forward in this season after a really fun season last year, and they're a win away from an Eastern Conference Finals berth, which is really exciting for a team that has never won the championship. So I know that there's a little bit of a rivalry with the Pacers back from the early 2000s. I really don't have much of a problem with this current Pacers team, other than maybe Tyrese Halliburton. But then again, his comments about the Pistons at the time were pretty accurate. So I think they're a fun team to watch, and it's interesting to see the number 1 overall seed basically on the ropes here. We'll see if they can mount the comeback, but I'm doubtful. We'll just leave it at that. The other series that we got to talk about, and we will get to the Celtics. Don't worry. We will get to the Celtics. I want to talk about this Warriors-Wolves series because, again, you have a team up 3-1 in the Wolves. And again, you have a team dealing with an injury in one Steph Curry. So, and Alex Bregman just hit a home run there to tie the game, so that's unfortunate. But Anthony Edwards continuing to show that he is a superstar in this league, continuing to show that he can take over games. He's averaging 27 points in a game compared to Jimmy Butler, who, granted, having a decent series, 21 points for him a game. But I think that injury to Steph pretty much ices this series. Short of him just somehow making it, if they can just escape game 5, they can get the win in game 5, and he can come back maybe by game 6, then maybe Warriors have a shot, but I just don't see it happening. It just seems like there is not that guy on the Warriors that really takes over. And there's a reason this team is a play-in team. Let's be honest. The Jimmy Butler deal was a good move, really put a jolt into this Warriors team, but it does sort of feel like the last hurrah for Golden State. A lot of times dynasties, they like to go out with success. You think of the Chicago Bulls or even frankly the Detroit Red Wings. They went out winning a championship and then getting to a game 7 in the cup. But most of the time, these dynasties they go out with a whimper. It's a lot more like the Patriots and a lot less like the Chicago Bulls of the 90s. And as exciting as it might have been for a Bay Area basketball fan, unfortunately, I don't think that Steph Curry and company is enough at this point. I think Draymond, again, as good of a player as he is, his best years are behind him. And the team as a whole really has not done a great job at replacing that core of guys. And granted, again, it's hard to replace them. The league is designed for you not to stay successful forever. So I'm sure the Warriors will still kind of be in the sphere of influence because Steph Curry is still a superstar. But once his shooting starts to drop, once his athleticism starts to go, once Draymond starts to really slow down, and I mean, he's already basically just kind of a shell of his former self. Once it just starts getting to the point that once you lose Draymond and Steph, you already lost Clay, you already lost Iguodala. There's really not a whole lot left. So enjoy it while you still have it, Golden State, because let me tell you, as a Pistons fan, you're not going to like the long drought if that is what's coming, which I doubt, but you never know. You never know. Now, let's go ahead and get into this Celtics series because, unfortunately, for this year,
the Celtics are the balls.
Is not true. The Celtics are, in fact, not the balls. They may have never actually been the balls this year because they are down 3-1 to the New York Knicks. And the Knicks have basically just, I don't want to say dog walked them because at every point the Celtics were up pretty high, but they just collapsed under the weight of themselves. I like to think I have something of an explanation for why these things happen, but I really don't have much more other than, I don't know, maybe Jayson Tatum is kind of soft. Like, I mean, I hate to insult the man as he is, out for the rest of the season, however long that's going to be, and probably for a decent amount of next season with a torn Achilles. But, maybe the Celtics last year were kind of that 1-year wonder. I mean, they did make the Stanley Cup the final couple of years ago, but losing to the Warriors. Sometimes it happens where I really thought that this Celtics team, they were a well-oiled machine. They had a lot of really great players in Tatum and Brown and Porzingis and all of them, but I don't know. Porzingis got the itis or whatever disease he got that just turned him into the shell of his former self. Jayson Tatum seemed to return to fourth quarter / overtime version of himself where he just completely shuts down in those clutch moments. And then now you're dealing with this injury. It's just it's a bit of a nightmare for Boston because they're probably going to have to break up the band here. They're not going to be able to pay all these guys due to the luxury tax. So we'll see. A lot of guys could be on the move. Drew Holiday, Porzingis, I'd be shocked, but it wouldn't necessarily be completely out of the picture if a guy like Jaylen Brown even goes on the move. I don't know. We'll see. I think it's unlikely, especially Jaylen Brown, but certainly Porzingis and Drew Holiday are going to be guys that, assuming that Boston doesn't just completely turn things around here, it could be, a bit of a sales party for Boston this year in the offseason, I should say. And then finally, we do have one more series to talk about, and that's the Thunder Nuggets series. And this, to me, is just like, it feels to me that the winner of this series is destined to win it all. And maybe that's hyperbole. Whether you think that's true or not. You got the two best players in the world, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Nikola Jokic, duking it out. It's back and forth. It's not like any one team is just running away with it. Obviously, you had the one Thunder win where they scored almost 150 points. Okay, sure. That game was what it was. The first game was won on a buzzer beater. You had an overtime game that was only a 9-point win for the Nuggets. Then you had a low-scoring affair with the Thunder getting the victory. Now you're going to be going back to OKC in a tied-up series. Like, for this series, for sure, could go to 7. But I think also that whoever wins this, I think is going to win it because Boston's falling apart. Cleveland seems to be a shell of itself, and everybody outside of that. I mean, like, I love Minnesota, but I don't know that they are. I don't know that they're good enough to be able to beat OKC in a 7-game set. Although that could be must-see TV as far as I'm concerned, because both those teams are a lot of fun to watch when I get to watch them, which is not often because, once again, for whatever reason, and I know it's not entirely the league's fault because of just the nature of where these teams play, but the most interesting series in the playoffs has tonight's game starting at 9:30. Some of us actually care about this. Some of us actually want to watch. It's just like, okay, fine. I guess I won't watch. I'll watch like 30 minutes and then go to bed because I have to work tomorrow, as does presumably everybody watching or going to these games. But again, it's a couple of, OKC is only an hour behind and Denver's only a couple hours behind. I don't see why we can't have the game start at 8:30. Can I at least watch the first half? Can I at least have that? No. Pistons are a whole lot better than the Celtics. I think the Pistons have played better than the Celtics. I'm not ready to go and say this year they are a whole lot better than the Celtics. They played the Knicks a whole lot better, although granted, we also failed to close out a lot of games in that series. And for all intents and purposes, the Celtics have a chance to take this to 6 games just like us. So I don't want to go that far, but I think next year, assuming that the Celtics do, in fact, start shelling some people off like Porzingis, like Jrue Holiday. For one, if those guys are available, Detroit should definitely be interested. Jrue Holiday, I think, would be a great player for Detroit. Good defensive player. He could shoot the 3-ball as well. He's got championship pedigree. He'd be a leader on the team. I think Jrue Holiday would be an excellent player for Detroit to go after. Porzingis would be a nice piece as well. Again, championship caliber guy. So yeah, I think next year, assuming the offseason goes the way that it should for Detroit, yeah, I think absolutely they could be a better team than the Celtics next year. And as far as the Cavs go, the way the Pacers are beating them, it might just be, look, the Eastern Conference next year, it might be Detroit, New York, Indiana. And maybe you mix in Orlando, because Orlando dealt with a lot of injuries this year, but they still made the playoffs, and they took took the Celtics to 5 games, and it could have been even closer. So we'll see. We'll see, man. Things are going to be exciting this NBA offseason for sure. All right. Next up on the docket, talk a little bit of the NHL playoffs very briefly. So the Panthers bounce back. They were down 2-0. They go home. They win 2 straight. And it wasn't easy. They had the overtime winner on Friday night. You needed to have that game. You couldn't go down 3-0 to Toronto, who just won a series after going up 3-0. Couldn't have it. Then they shut them out on Sunday evening. 2-0. Okay, a Mother's Day victory for the Kitty Cats. All right. Now, tomorrow night, if the Panthers can win this game, I think the Leafs will be just basically dead. like the Leafs, it's a have-to-have-it game. You're back at home. If you can get yourself ahead 3-2, put the Panthers in a situation where they got to win in 7, then you got a shot if you're Toronto. The fear I have for Toronto is that they are just choke artists, that Austin Matthews in a gotta-have-it game will not perform or will not be enough because everybody else around him will not be there. As loaded as the Maple Leafs are and as good of a hockey team as they are, for whatever reason, when it's an elimination game, when series is on the line, they don't know what to do. They get confused. I don't know. It just, the game becomes confusing for them. As Spencer Torkelson just hit a home run to opposite field. That's pretty awesome. There you go. Needed that. That's his 11th homer of the season. Tigers up 3-2. Oppo Taco. Nice hit. Needed that. Need a little confidence booster there, Torquey. That's a nice piece of hit. Anyway, I got distracted by that torque bomb. All right. Now, the other series I want to talk about is this Dallas Stars and Jets series, because the Stars up 2-1. They got the game tonight at 8:00 in Dallas. This is a game where, look, if you could put Winnipeg down 3-1, I think they're going to collapse. I think they're just going to, they're not coming back. And the President's Trophy allegations are looking pretty strong on Winnipeg. I think the Mikko Rantanen deal to get Dallas Mikko, that might go down as one of the single biggest trades in the NHL history. Similar to something like, when the Red Wings went and got Brendan Shanahan in that 97 season. I believe it was in the offseason, but still, when they went and got Brendan Shanahan, and that elevated them from not just a really, really good team that's going to make the playoffs and potentially going to make a run to an unstoppable force. I right now, of the teams remaining, in my honest opinion, with you can take for that what you will, I think Dallas is the team to look out for. Like Florida, it's hard to go to 3 cups in a row, let alone win 2 cups in a row. Carolina, they're up 3-1, which is, they're looking good. They needed this kind of a playoff run. I don't know if they can get it done in the cup. And Edmonton, it's similar. You just made the cup. It could be hard to bounce back and get right back to the cup. And frankly, I think they've had a fairly undifficult path. Undifficult? Is that not very difficult path to get to where they are? I think Vegas is sort of a shell of its former self, as much as they are a well-run organization. They're just not the kind of team that they were before. Dallas, obviously, they had to go through Colorado. That series went to 7. Now they're going through the President's Trophy winning Winnipeg Jets. And again, that series isn't over. Winnipeg could win tonight. But if they do get the win tonight, I think Dallas is going to win the series outright. Dallas, I think if they get to Dallas, if it's Edmonton, Dallas, which is more likely, as Edmonton's up 3-1 over Vegas, that could be the series to watch as far as winner could win the cup outright. But there's a deep, dark part of me that just says, you know what? I want to see Canada lose. Like, okay, right now, there's 3 Canadian teams left. The way that I see this going, we could have just one going into the Western Conference or going into the conference final. Obviously, Vegas, if they could pull off the miracle and come back down 3-1, that would be hysterical. However, I don't think that's very likely. But it does feel likely to me that Florida gets the job done against Toronto. It does feel likely to me that Dallas gets the job done against Winnipeg. And those are 2 of the best Canadian teams left. Obviously, Edmonton is very good with McDavid and Draisaitl, but it's hard to go to 2 back-to-back cups. Very hard. But sure, they're definitely capable of it. I'm out of water. You know what? That's fine. We're almost done with the show. We can get through this. All right. So, Tigers are up 3 games. Let's relax. Tigers are up 3-2 over the Red Sox. Hopefully they win this game, but even if they don't, they got a chance to win that 3-game set. Tomorrow, Tigers continue to be a really good baseball team. And I think, as we're in the month of May and as we're still pretty early in the season, you can't really make gross generalizations about the kind of players that are really going off. This guy is absolutely going to be an all-star. This guy could be Gold Glove or Silver Slugger, whatever. I think it's still a little bit early, or even to make generalizations about teams. I think it's a little bit early. But the one thing that I really like to do in these baseball segments is I want to focus on a player that I have been intrigued by from the Tigers. And that player for this particular segment is Dylan Dingler. So for those of you who don't really know who Dylan Dingler is, I've been well familiar with Dylan Dingler's game for, I'd say, 2-3 years at this point. He was a guy who was just constantly kind of in the minor leagues, as a catcher. There was points where he was really raking. Then there were points where it was like, okay, he's still not here. Maybe he's not that good. But he continued to be in the minor leagues. He's 26 years old, so he was a pretty old minor leaguer. And there was a thought of, okay, this guy's been in the minor leagues for a pretty gosh darn long time. So who knows if he's actually going to turn out to be much of anything. However, this particular season, he has been really solid. Like if I want to even go beyond really solid, he's been really damn good. Like he's been one of the better players on this team. So just from a pure regular stats standpoint, 282 batting average. He's got 4 home runs, 16 RBIs, 13 runs scored. He's got a 771 OPS. That puts him at a 118 OPS plus, 18 points ahead of league average in terms of OPS. And according to Fangraphs, according to Baseball Reference, he's a 1.1 WAR player. So he's winning you games as a catcher, and that is pretty impactful, right? Like that is important. And then you look at the deeper stats here on Fangraphs, WRC plus this year of 118. Fangraphs even has him at a 1.2 WAR. So Fangraphs WAR even values him even higher. defensively, he is a 5.9 rating. So he's been pretty good on defense in terms of, that. In terms of what he's offering that, which matters a lot more for a catcher, than it might for other players. Batting average on balls in play is 360. So he hits the ball in play, it's usually dropping for a base hit. His K rate, 27.2, not ideal, especially compared to his walk rate, which is less than 1%. So that's certainly going to hurt your on base, your OPS, and just your on base percentage in general. But this is a guy that I don't think people are really talking about. Look, just going off of his expected numbers. So FGDC, Fangraphs DC, they projected him to bat just 233 with a 94 WRC plus. He's obviously already ahead of that. Okay. And they expected him to be a 1.5 WAR player. Right now, he's already at a 1.2. The Zips projection, for what that's worth, had him a little bit higher. They had him at a 237 average with a 99 WRC plus. But again, he is exceeding the expectation in every single one of the projections here. And again, these are not perfect projections. You can take them or leave them. If you don't like Fangraphs, I don't know what to tell you. These guys know what they're talking about. And the advanced stats they got, I think, are very reliable. He is playing very well. And look, even in the minor leagues, he's shown an ability to get to up to double-digit walk rate. He had a 10% walk rate in 24 in AAA. He had an 11% walk rate overall in the minor leagues in 2023. If he can at least get that walk rate, I'm not even asking him to get that high, but if he can get that walk rate to 10% and he's still hitting 282 and he's still got that over 100 WRC plus and over 100 OPS plus, look, I'm not saying that we got Pudge Rodriguez. I am saying, though, we got a really solid player who's right now entering the prime of his career at age 26, and this is probably the best years of baseball he's going to have, and we're really not paying him that much. Right now, his signing bonus is $1.9 million. And that was a signing bonus. He's really not getting paid all that much. He's not going to be a free agent for another 6 years. So you're going to have this guy all the way into his prime. So again, he's really impressed me. And some of the advanced, some of the baseball savant stuff, he's not, top player in the league good, but he is a piece. He is a piece of why the Tigers are this good. Here's the other thing about it. Jake Rogers, who was the catcher for a Cy Young winning pitcher in Tarek Skubal, he goes down with injury, despite the fact that he was really not having a great offensive start to the year, but he had a really good playoff. So he was, I think coming off of a pretty decent season for him. And this rookie, essentially, maybe not technically, he was on the team last year, but essentially this rookie has to come in and take over his role. And that's not an easy job to take. But he has done it. He stood, he has not folded to the pressure. And he's got a lot of potential for him to do some damage here. And potentially, I'm not saying it for sure, but potentially, if he continues at the trajectory he's at, be an all-star catcher. I'm not saying he is right now. He needs to continue where he's at. But he might be one of these guys that, if you're not a Tiger fan or if you're just sort of on the peripherals watching baseball, you might not really identify much with this guy. You might not really even know who he is, but you look at the numbers and the numbers don't lie. They just don't. And again, they projected him to have just 7 total home runs. He's already got 4. This is a guy who could get into the double digits in terms of home runs because he's got pop. That's for sure. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. I think he's a really fun player. I think, if you are more of a baseball nerd like I am, I think he's a guy that you would want to investigate and see just where he's at in his development and how he's gotten to the point where he is. I think this is definitely a player to watch. We'll just leave it at that. So fun stuff. Now the Tigers are tied up with the Red Sox. Hopefully they come back. Hopefully. Either way, it's been a fun series, or it's been a fun season so far. Just don't have a terrible month of May, please. But all right, that's pretty much all I had. Not a whole lot more to talk about. So we'll be back next week. We'll talk about the NBA and NHL playoffs. We should have the conference finals determined for both of those leagues. And so that should be fun. We'll be talking about that. Another week of the baseball season. See if the Tigers, they're going to be going on a road trip after this 3-game set here against Boston. So hopefully they can do some damage there on the road. Hopefully they can do some damage here at home. So with all that being said, I do appreciate you guys for stopping by, listening, and hanging out. I'll be back next week, talk more sports news of the week. So with all that being said, have a good night, everybody, and I'll see you all next Tuesday. See ya. Goodbye. See you later.